Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm going to be talking about a horror film that is pretty recent, but not super recent. It's probably about 2 or 3 years old now, I think, and that is The Babadook. This film really terrified a lot of people when it first came out. I know Chris Stuckman on his YouTube channel really praised this film a lot when it first came out. It's known for not having any jump scares at all. It's all natural scares, all monster scares and stuff like that, if you want to call it that. So I'm going to review this film today for you guys, The Babadook. And not only is this present in the movie, the look of this book, this is also what the Babadook looks like within the picture book. So I think it's kind of cool how this Blu-ray cover kind of incorporated what he kind of looks like within this picture book within the movie. So that's what he looks like that way. So in this movie, you guys, the Babadook is mostly about a single mother who's trying to raise her son, who's always getting into trouble a lot. He likes to make weapons. He likes to hurt kids around him and stuff. He feels like he doesn't belong with people too well. He has a hard time making friends. It gets to the point where basically his school system kicks him out, and the single mother has to figure out how she's going to educate her son in another form of school, whether he has to go to a private school or be homeschooled or any of those things. She still has to figure this out. She works at a nursing home, so she really doesn't have a lot of time herself to plan things like this out. But while she's trying to figure this out with her kid, he likes to be read bedtime stories at night. And one night, she lets him choose any book off the shelf that he wants. And they have this book called The Babadook, and in this book, it's basically about this creature that lives in a cabinet, like a closed cabinet thing, and he likes to terrify the kid and the family that has whatever cabinet the room is, the cabinet that the room is, wherever this cabinet's placed in the house, basically. It likes to terrify the kid that is closest to that cabinet. And this really creeps the kid out. He already has a hard time sleeping as it is. So the mom kind of immediately puts the book back on the shelf. She regrets, reading it to the boy and everything. Why they have this book, I have no idea. It's next to like the Three Little Pigs and other really popular books for kids and stuff. So time goes on, looking for this school is becoming more and more challenging. Nobody really wants to be around this kid just because he has a lot of problems. He likes to make weapons and hurt people and stuff. Um, but basically, he keeps talking about this Babadook guy that the mom read to him the other night. And so it gets to the point where the mom has to basically tear up the book, throw it away, in hopes that, he'll eventually give up the Babadook thing and just move on. But things get worse. She's starting to notice things around the house that match up to the things that the Babadook character had within the book and things like that. Her kid keeps talking about it. Things in the house keep there's things in the house that keep happening to them, like they have a cockroach problem. They hear really scary sounds at night. They feel like something's within the house that is always like knocking on doors and windows and stuff like that. They're starting to have stalker phone calls and things like this. So time gets on. There's even a threat letter saying that if they don't acknowledge the Babadook, basically things will get worse. So throughout this movie, they have to figure out how can they get rid of the Babadook. Is it real? Is it not? Is it simply them going insane? Does the mom have all these psychological problems that she thinks she might have had at one point in the movie? So they have to figure out what is the Babadook, how can they get rid of it, and why is it strictly after them, just after reading the book once one night. So overall, guys, I like the movie. I wasn't completely in love with this movie like some people were. I think it's a well-made film that happens to have a lot of problems with it. So let's go over those positives and negatives of this movie. For the most part, for my positives, I thought it was very scary and disturbing. When the scares happen, when there's scenes that are meant to be disturbing that happens in the movie, they work very well. I feel very sorry for the mother in this movie. She went through a lot. She's very psychologically troubled when she has a hard time separating reality with this Babadook character from this book. So I thought the scary scenes and the disturbing scenes worked out very well in this movie. Huge thumbs up when it comes to that. The scares and the disturbing moments work very well in this movie. I also felt a lot of sympathy for this mother character. I thought she had the most detail and background story out of all these characters in the movie that were the most interesting. You really could feel sorry for her and understand her situation of how this basically this kid will not behave for her. She will not, she has a hard time finding a school for him and a babysitter for him, and her to balance her job out and everything. So basically, she has to figure out a balance within her life that she's still struggling to figure out. So in that regard, you feel very sorry for her. You really feel sorry for her when the Babadook shows up and really starts to terrify her. So they did a very good job establishing the mother character in this movie. I'm not familiar with the actress, so I don't know her name, but she did a very good job portraying this character in the movie. There's also scenes in the movie when the Babadook really starts to haunt this family, and the mother has a hard time separating things she's watching on the TV from things that she's seeing in real life. And sometimes the things she's seeing on the TV make her think about the Babadook, making it things worse in the house that night when she's trying to go to sleep and everything. So I thought the scenes where things that are happening with on the TV she's watching and how they work into her reality later that night were very effective in this movie. So those sequences were very well made, and they very much match up with not only the Babadook book that happened earlier in the movie, but it happens with it's very well incorporated with the things that happen later on in this movie as the mother continues to struggle with her kid and is still haunted by this Babadook character. I also like a lot of these picture book visuals in this movie, like I showed you earlier. Things like this show up in the movie as far as what shows up in the book and things like that. So I thought the visuals were very well done. I like how they very much matched up with this picture book that they show earlier in the movie. So as far as the visuals go, I really had no complaints with the movie as far as that goes. I also kind of like the Stephen King quality of the story. I like how a book can make you go insane if the book is insane enough and things like that. It very much reminded me of like a Stephen King quality story. So huge thumbs up in that regard. I like that quality of this movie. I also liked how, kind of like what Chris Stuckman liked about the movie, I like how there really isn't any jump scares. I like how most of the scares are situational moments or things that are happening in the house or things that the mother sees and feels and hears that remind her from the Babadook character within that book from earlier in the movie. So I like how it's all kind of natural scares. It's more like things that people see and hear and think about and things that bother them and things that disturb them. I like how the film plays off those things. It doesn't go off the jump scare route or anything like that. I like how it really does play off of what are people afraid of and why does that keep bothering them kind of a thing. So I like how there's no jump scares in this movie. I also liked the Babadook presence in the movie. Whenever he shows up, whenever there's scenes that very much involve this Babadook supernatural force, I liked how the director of this movie really made sure that we felt creeped out and disturbed and very, took back by this presence. So I liked how the Babadook looked and felt and interacted with people throughout this movie. But for my negatives of the Babadook and why I'm really not in love with it, to be honest, is I thought the son character was very annoying in this movie. I thought this child that this mother had, I really thought they could have written him better, to be honest. I thought I would have preferred a character that I could have sympathized with, like the mother, and really could have understood where he came from and things like that. There's elements about it. I understand about the losing the father and him, feeling like he's cheated out of a father in his life and things like that. I understood that. But there's parts of the movie where it's like they really could have written him better and made him more interesting. Because they did such a great job with the mother. It's really too bad that this child, they went with the annoying scream at the top of your lungs kind of approach with him. I really felt like they could have done something more interesting and original with this character, because the route they took was just your typical scream at the top of your lungs kind of a kid performance. So unfortunately, we don't really have another great child actor, I don't think, in our leagues yet. So as far as that character who was handled, I really thought they could have done a better job with that. I also really didn't buy up to the setup of this movie. The whole movie, I was just like, who in the right mind would have this Babadook book in a child's bedroom? Like, who would really have it next to like the Three Little Pigs and all this other stuff? Even the content within the book, it's like, who would really think that that would be a good idea for a kid? So as far as how the film was set up, how the Babadook got incorporated into the movie, I really didn't buy into it that much. There's also a lot of really unlikable characters in this film. The sister of the mother, the people who are in charge of where this kid gets placed to in the public school system and things like that. I really didn't like those characters. I thought they were very boring. They just didn't have as much interesting of a background as the mother did. So I really didn't like how some of these characters were handled in this movie. I either didn't like them or I was very bored with them very, very, very quickly. I also think this film has no replay value. I think everything I could ever get out of this movie I got in my first viewing. So unfortunately, The Babadook is really not a film that I could see myself watching numerous times over again. I also thought the closure of The Babadook could have been handled a little bit better. I thought that the way that he kind of exited out of the story was not very clear. Even though the book that they read earlier on in the movie said that, the Babadook is something that never really goes away. I thought they could have played off that a little bit more. I understood why they did what they did, but unfortunately, it almost feels like the Babadook took the form of a pet or something like that. I don't really know. Yeah, it's very hard to explain without spoiling the movie. So it's just like I don't know how to feel about the closure of the Babadook. I don't know. Yeah, it's just something I don't really know how I feel about, and as a result, I don't really feel complete as a viewer as far as where this character ended up by the end of the story. I also thought this film kind of stole elements from other movies at times too. The scenes where the mom, even though I like the TV sequences, I felt like they were kind of stolen from Requiem for a Dream as far as how her insanity went. Because in Requiem for a Dream, the Ellen Bernstein character went insane in the same way, like thinking that things on the TV were happening to her and stuff like that. And there's just other elements too, where it's like I feel like they're stealing from that movie and from that movie and from that movie. Some of the things that they show on the television that are kind of like from old silent films, I felt like they kind of stole that from Hugo in some ways, because you know how in Hugo, for those who saw that, they have like scenes from old silent films. I felt like they kind of just stole it from that, to be honest. So I would have preferred a film that had more original and more refreshing approaches on things, because as far as I'm concerned, some of these elements feel like they're taken from other movies. So overall, I'm going to give The Babadook an 8 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, if you really like really scary horror films, it's not a bad view. There's a lot of good things about this movie. Like I said, it's visually well made. The scares are very effective, but unfortunately, there's a lot of really unlikable and annoying characters in this movie. The setup is very cheesy. I really can't see myself watching this a second or third time. Some of the elements feel like they're stolen from other films, and I thought the closure of the Babadook could have been more clear to me, because unfortunately it didn't feel very clear by the end of the movie. So 8 out of 10, good movie. It's very problematic at times, but when it works, it really works well. So if you just want to give it one view, that's not bad. Don't buy it. I would just say just watch it once and get it done with. So if you like really scary horror films, not a bad view, but like I said, it's not going to be an instant classic of any kind.